the amount of cash we have is, we came pretty close to spending $10 billion not that long ago, for example. But those decisions are not tough to make. When something is offered that makes sense to us and that we understand and offers good value.
Warren Buffett turned down a $3 billion investment opportunity that would have made him the richest man in the world, all because it violated a two-word principle he lives by. Most people chase wealth their entire lives, sacrificing everything to climb the success ladder. Yet the world's most successful investor, worth over $100 billion, still lives in the same modest house he bought for $31,500 in 1958, drives ordinary cars, and makes decisions that deliberately leave billions on the table. The wisdom behind these seemingly contradictory choices reveals why Buffett has outperformed virtually every investor in history, and why most people following conventional success advice are destined to fail. These insights transformed an ordinary Omaha boy into a living legend whose principles have created more wealth than almost any individual in history. Warren Buffett's journey didn't start with advantages most people assume. Born in 1930 during the Great Depression, his early life was shaped by financial uncertainty that affected millions of Americans. His father, a stockbroker and later congressman, provided financial stability but not extraordinary wealth. The young Buffett didn't inherit a fortune or receive special access to investment opportunities. What separated Buffett wasn't privilege but perspective. While most children were playing games, Buffett was studying business. He bought his first stock at age 11, delivered newspapers as a teenager, and filed his first tax return at 14, claiming a $35 deduction for his bicycle used on his paper route. These weren't the actions of a child prodigy, but rather someone with extraordinary focus on learning how money works. Perhaps most revealing about Buffett's unconventional path is his education. Though he studied under the legendary Benjamin Graham at Columbia University, Buffett was initially rejected from Harvard Business School. This seeming setback became the pivotal moment that connected him with his greatest mentor. Had Harvard accepted him, the Oracle of Omaha might never have emerged. What's particularly striking about Buffett's early years is his methodical approach to developing his mind rather than just accumulating capital. While most ambitious young people rush to make their first fortune, Buffett spent thousands of hours studying annual reports, business models, and investment principles. He was building the intellectual foundation that would later generate billions. As Buffett himself often notes, the most important investment you can make is in yourself. This philosophy contradicts the conventional approach of seeking quick returns and jumping at immediate opportunities. Instead, it suggests that the ultimate competitive advantage comes from developing your thinking capacity first, and only then deploying capital. At the heart of Buffett's philosophy is a concept he calls the inner scorecard, a principle that explains why he's made decisions that seemed irrational to outside observers, but ultimately led to extraordinary success. In a world obsessed with appearances, social media validation, and external markers of success, Buffett advocates developing your own internal standards independent of what others think or value. This means measuring yourself by metrics that matter to you rather than chasing approval or validation from others. Buffett illustrates this principle with a thought experiment. Would you rather be the world's greatest lover but have everyone think you're the world's worst lover? Or would you rather be the world's worst lover but have everyone think you're the greatest? The question reveals a fundamental choice we all face. Do we optimize for outside perception or internal reality? Buffett's extraordinary success stems from consistently choosing substance over appearance, even when it made him seem old-fashioned, overly cautious, or out of touch. During the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s, Buffett refused to invest in technology companies despite enormous pressure and criticism. His company, Berkshire Hathaway, underperformed the market for years while internet stocks soared. Financial media questioned whether Buffett had lost his touch. Yet when the bubble burst in 2000, those same technology investments collapsed while Buffett's carefully selected companies continued generating value. This pattern has repeated throughout his career. During the 2008 financial crisis, when panic was at its height and most investors were selling everything, Buffett invested billions in companies like Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. He wasn't responding to market sentiment, but to his own careful analysis of underlying value. The inner scorecard requires extraordinary mental fortitude because it often means standing alone with your convictions while the crowd moves in the opposite direction. As Buffett puts it, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. This patience, the willingness to wait years or even decades for an investment thesis to play out, is impossible without a strong inner scorecard. One of Buffett's most powerful yet counterintuitive principles is his strict adherence to what he calls his circle of competence. In a world that celebrates versatility and rewards the appearance of expertise across multiple domains, Buffett has deliberately restricted his activities to areas he deeply understands. The size of your circle isn't important, Buffett explains. What's important is knowing the boundaries of that circle. This means having the intellectual honesty to recognize what you don't know, and the discipline to stay away from those areas, regardless of how tempting the opportunities might seem. This principle explains one of the most criticized decisions in Buffett's career, his refusal to invest in technology companies during their explosive growth phase. While others made billions on early investments in companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon, Buffett stuck with boring industries like insurance, railways, and consumer goods. Critics called him outdated, but Buffett understood something profound. Sustainable advantages come from focusing intensely on areas where you have genuine insight rather than chasing every exciting opportunity. As he famously put it, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. What's particularly remarkable about this approach is how it contradicts conventional wisdom about diversification and taking chances. Most investment advice encourages spreading capital across many opportunities and industries. Buffett instead advocates concentrated investments in areas you thoroughly understand. The circle of competence principle extends beyond investing. In an age of information overload, where experts feel pressure to have opinions on everything, Buffett's willingness to say, "I don't know," when outside his areas of expertise represents a rare kind of intellectual integrity. This same quality allowed him to avoid catastrophic losses during periods of market mania when others felt compelled to participate in bubbles they didn't understand. Perhaps most importantly, this principle saves enormous amounts of time and energy. Rather than dispersing his attention across dozens of industries and thousands of potential investments, Buffett focuses his remarkable analytical abilities on a relatively small set of businesses and industries. This depth-over-breadth approach has allowed him to spot opportunities and risks that others miss. Warren Buffett's most powerful advantage isn't his intelligence, connections, or even his investment skill. It's his understanding of what Albert Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. While most investors chase short-term gains and switch strategies frequently, Buffett has maintained essentially the same approach for over 70 years. This extraordinary consistency has allowed the power of compounding to work its magic on his investments in a way few others have experienced. The numbers tell the story. If you had invested $1,000 in Berkshire Hathaway when Buffett took control in 1965, that investment would be worth over $20 million today. This represents a compound annual growth rate of approximately 20% sustained over 5 decades, a feat so extraordinary it seems almost impossible. What makes Buffett's understanding of compounding unique is his visceral, emotional grasp of its implications. Most people intellectually understand the math, but fail to appreciate how it should transform their decision-making. Buffett structures his entire life around maximizing the effects of compounding. This explains why he still lives frugally despite his enormous wealth. Every dollar not spent becomes part of his compounding machine. It explains his famous aversion to debt, which can work as reverse compounding that destroys wealth. It even explains his careful protection of his time and health. He views both as essential resources that enable the compounding process to continue. Buffett's perspective on compounding extends beyond money to knowledge and relationships. He reads 500 pages of corporate reports, financial journals, and books every day, a habit he's maintained for decades. This compounds his knowledge base in a way few can match. Similarly, he invests deeply in a small number of close relationships rather than maintaining a vast network of superficial connections. Perhaps most significantly, Buffett understands that compounding requires avoiding catastrophic losses that reset the process. As he famously stated, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. This isn't just clever wordplay. It reflects the mathematical reality that a 50% loss requires a 100% gain just to break even. By prioritizing protection from permanent capital loss above all else, Buffett ensures his compounding machine continues working over decades. At the core of Warren Buffett's philosophy, the principle that explains his most consequential decisions are just 2 words: inner integrity. This principle explains why Buffett turned down investments that would have made him billions, why he publicly advocates for higher taxes on the wealthy despite being among them, and why he's pledged to give away 99% of his fortune rather than passing it to his children. Inner integrity means establishing personal principles and following them even when they're inconvenient or costly. It means making decisions you'd be comfortable having reported on the front page of your hometown newspaper. It means operating with complete consistency between your public and private selves. Buffett demonstrates this principle through numerous decisions that seemed financially irrational but aligned with his deeper values. When one of Buffett's companies faced a scandal in the 1990s, he testified before Congress despite having legal options to avoid doing so. He told managers, "Lose money for the firm and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation for the firm and I will be ruthless." This principle explains why Buffett has maintained the same small team of loyal employees for decades, why he honors handshake agreements as if they were formal contracts, and why he speaks with remarkable candor about his own mistakes in his annual letters to shareholders. What makes Buffett's approach to integrity particularly powerful is that he views it not as a moral luxury, but as a practical necessity. In his view, cutting ethical corners might generate short-term gains, but inevitably undermines long-term success. True integrity creates operational efficiencies by eliminating the cognitive burden of maintaining different versions of reality for different audiences. Perhaps most importantly, inner integrity builds the foundation of trust that has become Buffett's greatest competitive advantage. When financial markets freeze and capital becomes scarce, as happened during the 2008 crisis, Buffett receives opportunities others don't because counterparties know his word is absolutely reliable. During that crisis, Goldman Sachs and other major companies turned to Buffett not just for capital, but for the signal his investment would send to the broader market. His reputation for integrity had become an asset more valuable than money itself, one that took decades to build, but now generates endless opportunities. Beyond his investment wisdom, Buffett offers profound insights on happiness and life satisfaction, that challenge conventional assumptions about wealth and success. Despite having the resources to own anything or go anywhere, Buffett finds his deepest satisfaction in simplicity and consistency. He starts each day with a McDonald's breakfast that never costs more than $3.17, drinks Coca-Cola products religiously, and spends most evenings at home reading or playing bridge with friends. When asked about this modest lifestyle despite his extraordinary wealth, Buffett explains, "I already have everything I need. I'm already doing what I love with people I love. More money couldn't provide anything of value to me that I don't already have." This perspective profoundly contradicts the pursuit of ever-increasing consumption that drives most modern economies. Buffett recognized early in his life that happiness comes not from accumulating possessions, but from designing a life that minimizes sources of stress and maximizes engagement with activities and people you genuinely enjoy. His approach to work reflects this philosophy. At 91, Buffett still works not because he needs to, but because he genuinely loves the intellectual challenge of investing. As he famously said, "I tap dance to work every day." This enthusiasm comes from structuring his professional life around his natural strengths and interests rather than conforming to conventional career paths. Particularly revealing is Buffett's definition of success. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. This subtle distinction explains why so many high achievers find themselves on a hedonic treadmill, constantly striving for the next goal without ever experiencing lasting satisfaction. Buffett's alternative approach focuses on identifying the conditions that genuinely create happiness for you as an individual, then designing your life to maximize those conditions. For him, this means intellectual stimulation, meaningful relationships, teaching others, and contributing to causes he believes in, not accumulating status symbols or experiencing luxury. The ultimate insight from Buffett's approach to happiness is that financial independence should be pursued not primarily for what it allows you to buy, but for the freedom it provides to structure your life around your authentic preferences rather than external necessities. Warren Buffett's legacy extends far beyond the billions he's earned or the companies he's acquired. His true impact lies in demonstrating an alternative path to success, one based on patience rather than speed, simplicity rather than complexity, and integrity rather than opportunism. In a world increasingly characterized by short-term thinking, algorithm-driven decisions, and the constant pursuit of the new, Buffett stands as a powerful counterexample. His extraordinary results weren't achieved through revolutionary strategies or cutting-edge technologies, but through the consistent application of timeless principles. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Buffett's legacy is how accessible his wisdom is. Unlike many who guard their secrets to success, Buffett has spent decades openly sharing his investment philosophy through annual letters, interviews, and shareholder meetings. The principles themselves aren't complicated. The challenge lies in having the discipline to apply them consistently over decades. As Buffett himself puts it, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Investing is not a game where the guy with the 160 IQ beats the guy with the 130 IQ. What you need instead is emotional stability, independent thinking, and a long-term perspective, qualities available to anyone willing to develop them. The ultimate question Buffett's example poses is whether we have the courage to follow a similar path. Are we willing to develop our own inner scorecard rather than chasing external validation? Can we define and honor our circle of competence rather than pretending to expertise we don't possess? Will we make the sacrifices necessary to let compound interest work its magic over decades? For those willing to embrace these principles, Buffett offers not just a path to financial success, but to something far more valuable, a life of integrity, purpose, and genuine satisfaction. In a world of endless noise and distraction, his deliberate, principled approach to both money and life stands as a quiet but powerful alternative. Proof that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply having the patience to think long-term. As he prepares to give away his fortune rather than pass it to his children, Buffett reminds us that his most valuable legacy isn't measured in dollars, but in wisdom. And unlike his financial assets, this wisdom is freely available to anyone willing to listen, learn, and most importantly, apply it with the same consistency that has defined Buffett's remarkable journey. If you found value in this analysis, please like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might benefit. Let me know what you think about Warren Buffett's philosophy and principles in the comments below. Until next time, here's to your business success and financial independence.